Three manufacturers are walking into Formula One's 2026 season, ready to burn billions of dollars to feed their egos. Audi grabbed a team with more history than half the current grid and gutted it. $450 million bought Cadillac nothing more than permission to show up, and Red Bull decided to build their own engines with Ford rather than deal with Honda's commitment issues one more time. So, who wins this drag race? Before the predictions start flying, Formula One's track record with ambitious manufacturers deserves attention. Toyota threw away at least $2 billion across 8 years and never stood on a podium's top step. BMW arrived strong, won some races, then walked away when the spreadsheets stopped making sense. Honda's exit and return cycle has become so predictable they might as well have a loyalty card. Factory projects don't survive long in this sport. Giants like Toyota, BMW, Renault, Honda, and Ford have all arrived convinced they cracked the code, only to watch Formula One swallow their money, their momentum, and whatever pride they brought with them. 2026 breaks that pattern, though. Mercedes crushed everyone when Formula One switched to hybrid engines in 2014 because they'd started development years earlier than their rivals. This reset gives nobody that advantage. Newcomers get to design for brand new regulations from day one without carrying the baggage of outdated systems, which means they might actually look competent when the lights go out. Smaller cars, increased electric power, active aerodynamics, and mandatory sustainable fuels force every team to tear up their old playbooks and start over. Setbacks will hit every single one of these programs. There's no avoiding that. The difference between success and another failed factory project comes down to recovery speed when things go sideways. And things always go sideways in Formula One. Sauber barely exists anymore after Audi's takeover. 50 years of heritage got stripped down to just the name and the grid position, everything else rebuilt from scratch. Their timeline stretches all the way to 2030 with a methodical progression mapped out. Backmarker to challenger to contender to champion. Executed with the kind of German precision that probably includes contingency plans for the contingency plans. The technical program at Newburgh runs on similar logic, and timing plays into their hands here. Established teams have to rip out the MGUH systems they've refined for a decade when 2026 arrives, while Audi designs their power unit specifically for the new regulations without any legacy complications slowing them down. Le Mans victories built Audi's hybrid racing credentials over years of competition, and the entire Volkswagen Group's electric vehicle expertise backs them up now. Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriel Bortolito give them a driver lineup that balances experience with long-term development potential, which puts their foundation miles ahead of most newcomers. Personnel problems threaten all that hardware advantage, though. Critical roles at Sauber keep emptying out, and staff turnover during a regulation reset destroys development progress in ways no team can absorb easily. Building anything long-term becomes nearly impossible when the people doing the building keep leaving. Factory backing, a clean sheet power unit design, and a roadmap detailed enough to make Swiss watchmakers jealous still position Audi as the most organized entry in the 2026 era. But Formula One doesn't care about organization. Politics rewrites entire championships in this sport, and the most carefully constructed plans collapse after one disastrous strategy call. Factory programs have died ugly deaths in Formula One for decades. What shifts the odds for Audi is everyone starting fresh in 2026. No team gets to leverage hybrid development that stretches back 10 years, and the MGUH advantage disappears completely. Newcomers finally get a legitimate shot at competitiveness earlier than usual. Problems will surface, every new program faces them, but Audi's success depends entirely on how fast they adapt when those inevitable problems arrive. Only an American manufacturer walks into Formula One with the kind of confidence Cadillac's bringing to a sport famous for destroying newcomers. $450 million in anti-dilution fees bought them exactly one thing: the right to line up against teams that have been turning right since before most Americans remembered cars could do that. Their entry wasn't exactly smooth either. Politics tangled up the Andretti partnership until the FIA made it clear they weren't welcome, but Cadillac forced their way onto the grid anyway. GM wants to prove Detroit builds more than trucks, SUVs, and oversized V8 engines. Years of electric platform development, battery technology, and hybrid systems give them genuine expertise that becomes incredibly valuable when the 2026 regulations lean heavily on electric power. Ferrari's power unit technology will run Cadillac's cars initially, while GM develops their own engine in the background, with plans to debut a fully GM-built unit as early as 2028. None of those advantages make this easy, though. Building a Formula One engine program during a global shortage of engineering talent is brutal, and creating an entire organization capable of competing at this level took teams like Mercedes and Red Bull literal decades to perfect. It's like assembling a rocket with an incomplete instruction manual while the countdown clock ticks away. Ambition doesn't show up alone, at least. Enormous funding, deep electric vehicle expertise, a completely clean slate, and that stubborn American underdog mentality that built generations of motorsport success all arrive with Cadillac. GM genuinely believes they can carve out space in a paddock that rejects outsiders on principle, And if American racing loves anything more than horsepower, its comeback story is driven by pure determination. Building a competitive Formula One team from nothing remains one of the hardest challenges in engineering and sport. Possible? Yes, but messy, expensive, and completely unforgiving. Early success won't come fast, and it won't come easy. Cadillac's betting that time, money, and relentless effort eventually transform this massive gamble into something real, maybe even something that rewrites the history books. Headlines followed Red Bull's Ford partnership announcement, but nobody actually found it surprising. Red Bull treats Formula One like a playground they own, and adding Ford is just another why not move from the team that already runs everything. Honda's on again, off again relationship with Formula One played out like a soap opera for years, creating the real challenge here, transitioning away from a partner who might change their mind tomorrow. Red Bull finally chose to build their own power unit operation rather than depend on a manufacturer whose future plans shift with the wind. Whether they can build a championship level engine without Honda's hybrid expertise remains the open question. Ford brings serious battery and electric vehicle knowledge to the table, which matters when electric output jumps to 350 kilowatts in 2026. Early reports suggest Red Bull's power unit development trails both Mercedes and Ferrari. Not catastrophic yet, but development timelines start feeling the pressure. Massive advantages still follow Red Bull into 2026, though. Max Verstappen, the strongest driver of this era, leads their roster. Their aerodynamics department outperforms the entire field. The organization expects victory every time they show up to a race. That foundation becomes priceless in a reset year. And this really is a complete reset. The MGUH advantage evaporates, and new regulations force every team to start from zero. Audi leans on hybrid racing experience, Cadillac taps into GM's electric vehicle knowledge, and Ford brings their own electrification expertise. But starting fresh often beats untangling old systems that no longer fit the regulations. Formula One doesn't hand underdogs easy victories, though. Resets create opportunities, but execution needs to approach perfection, and political maneuvering hits as hard as aerodynamic performance. Red Bull starts closest to the front, which automatically makes them the primary target when everyone else is trying to catch up. Line these three programs up side by side and the differences emerge quickly. Real funding backs all of them, but Red Bull's money has already been refined into championship-winning machinery. Serious resources flow to both Audi and Cadillac, yet they're still building the Formula One-specific structures needed for long-term success, while Red Bull's machine runs fully optimized. Political landscapes vary dramatically, too. Audi navigates Swiss, German, and FIA bureaucracy simultaneously. Cadillac works through the subtle gatekeeping that greets every new face in the paddock. Red Bull operates like veterans who've spent years bending the system to their advantage. Three different driver strategies tell their own story. Cadillac moved early, locking down Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez as proven veterans who can deliver sharp development feedback while stabilizing a brand new operation. Audi pairs experience and future potential through Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto. Red Bull anchors everything with Max Verstappen while closely watching how Isaac Hadjar fits into his new role, confident their foundation stays strong regardless. The next contract cycle will detonate the driver market. New manufacturers will throw massive offers at established drivers, and bidding wars could completely reshape the grid. Red Bull joins that chaos from a position of strength, though. Infrastructure differences run deep underneath everything else. Audi has an advanced base already moving forward. Cadillac leans on strong global facilities and electric vehicle expertise while building out their dedicated Formula One technical program. Red Bull remains the finished product, an established, fully synchronized operation that's been collecting victories for years. Boil everything down, and the likely finishing order becomes obvious. Red Bull and Ford are favorites to win first. Aerodynamic advantages already exist. Max Verstappen already drives for them. The team already knows exactly how to execute under pressure. As long as Ford doesn't completely butcher the power unit transition, they break through before anyone else. Audi comes second. Long-term stability, genuine factory backing, and a serious execution plan give them the ingredients for success, assuming they can stop bleeding key personnel and actually deliver on the blueprint they spent so much time building. Cadillac slots in third, carrying massive potential and unshakable American optimism while facing the steepest climb towards shaping their Formula One specific operation into something competitive. Real predictions, the kind that make me look either brilliant or completely stupid, go like this. Red Bull Ford wins their first race by mid-2026, but reliability issues ultimately steal the championship. Audi grabs their first podium in 2027 during a chaotic wet race where half the field ends up in the runoff. Cadillac scores their first points in 2028 at their home race in Las Vegas, mostly because the racing gods cannot resist perfect irony. By 2030, Red Bull Ford has collected multiple race wins but lost at least one heartbreaking title to power unit failures. Audi becomes a consistent podium threat without quite breaking through to victory. Cadillac either evolves into a surprise contender or sells the operation to someone with deeper patience reserves. Formula One stays true to form through all of it. Someone quits the moment things get difficult. Someone panics and makes catastrophically bad decisions. Someone accidentally builds a rocket ship while trying to fix their coffee machine. Ferrari strategy disasters and Williams snatching defeat from the jaws of victory have defined this sport for years, and adding three new manufacturers just means three new ways to generate chaos. Netflix might be the real winner here, filming 3 seasons of manufacturers explaining why their multi-million-dollar cars keep getting embarrassed by the safety car. The most expensive game of who's got the biggest wallet in motorsport history is about to get three new players. Whether they succeed or join Formula One's graveyard of failed factory projects depends entirely on recovery speed when inevitable setbacks arrive. Because in this sport, they always do. If watching manufacturers burn money trying to outrun chaos sounds entertaining, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more Formula One breakdowns.